This is Voice of the Bus, Mark Johnson, and you're listening to the Folsom Frenzy Podcast.
Welcome to the Folsom Frenzy Podcast. My name is Jake, and I'm here with Chase. Just a two-man show because Topher and Shreyas don't like CU sports. So you got the real diehards here. Me and Chase repping the Buffs. Avs just watched the Nuggets get their win. But had to hop on because there's a lot of CU news with the draft. The draft just wrapped up. We're recording this on Saturday evening. And yeah, big news is Shedeur Sanders slid a lot. And we'll get into it here in a second. But just to kind of recap the draft, I'm sure everyone that's listening already knows this, but just to recap it. Travis Hunter, second overall to the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think that's a great spot for him. And we'll go into that right after this rundown. Next up, Shedeur Sanders, fifth round, pick 144 to the Cleveland Browns, who also picked Dylan Gabriel, interestingly enough. And then after that, you have LeJonte Wester. Oh, wait. Where are you, LeJonte? Give me a second. LeJonte Wester, sixth round, pick 203 to the Baltimore Ravens. And then Jimmy Horn, sixth round, 5 picks later, 208 to the Carolina Panthers. And then we had some undrafted free agent signings. Cameron Simlin-Craig signed to the Jacksonville Jags. That's fun to see him reunited with Travis Hunter. I'm sure at some point we'll see both of those guys on the field, which is exciting, on the field together. Tampa Bay Buccaneers signed wide receiver Will Shepherd. Jacksonville Jaguars again signed BJ Green. Let's just call them the Boulder Jaguars at this point. Shedeur Sanders signed with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I think that's it as of right now, but there could be more coming, so stay tuned to that. But Chase, let's open it up. Let's talk about the really awesome news. The Buffs had a second overall draft pick with Travis Hunter going to Jacksonville. What do you think of the pick? What do you think that means for the program? Just let's hear your thoughts.
I think it's awesome. Super happy for Travis. The fact that Jacksonville was willing to trade up and trade a whole other first. So they traded 2 firsts and some other picks, but really it's the 2 firsts. Because he's the guy, right? Like they understand that he's the guy. He's generational. The Cleveland, I don't know what's going on with the Cleveland Browns. We'll get to that in a minute, but he was sitting right there for the Cleveland Browns. And I think if they knew now if they knew that they were going to end up with Sheduer, I find it hard to believe they would not have taken Travis. But regardless, I think Jacksonville's a great fit for him. I think that's going to be an awesome program. Sounds like they're on board for letting him play both ways to an extent. Sounds like he's primarily going to be a wide receiver there, but that's huge for Trevor Lawrence. It's going to be really cool for the program, and also happy to see him going back to, kind of his home turf, over kind of grew up between Florida and Georgia. And so Jacksonville's basically the ideal place for that. So really happy for him. For the program, that is huge, right? I think we've had one other number 2 overall pick ever. But, top corner to ever be drafted, that high, and what accolades. I mean, we've known he's a super special player, but for what this means, one of the things when you do the Winsipedia or whatever it is, where you compare each other, compare different schools, one of them is first round draft picks, right? So really bummed we didn't get a second first round draft pick, and we'll get to that, but really excited for Travis. Hope that it's a sign of more things to come. We knew that he was special. We've been saying he's special. It's very vindicating to see him go like that and be what should be a really big game changer for Jacksonville.
Yeah, Chase, I don't know if you saw the little speech. I'm going to call it a speech, but it was in a press conference given by the Jacksonville Jaguars GM, James Gladstone. What a great speech. I'm going to call it a speech. What an awesome speech. He's the youngest GM ever in NFL history at 34 years old. I'm 30, and I'm wondering, what am I doing with my life if he's a GM
was 34
years from now?
Yeah, that was Shreyas like 7 years ago. So it's crazy to think about.
Yeah, but basically what he said is like picking Travis Hunter he's a generational player, and it really shows what we are as a football team. We're not afraid to push the boundaries of the NFL, and that's what makes the NFL great. And what makes football awesome is you can just push those boundaries and do something that hasn't done before. And that's Travis Hunter, right? I think the Jacksonville head football coach also said, I got to throw this in, Duval, that guy, also said they wanted to use him the exact same way CU used him. So I think Jacksonville's an awesome fit for Travis. I was really excited to see him trade up, and they gave up a lot to get Travis Hunter. So they really believe in him, and you're not going to give up that much if you're not going to play him both ways and really use him to his fullest potential. So I'm really excited for Travis Hunter. Like you said, it's huge for the program. We really need to get excited. I think this has been a little bit drowned out by the Sheduer news, but I'm so excited for Travis and so excited for CU.
100%. He's the type of player, I mean, at least we think, that can totally turn around a program, and he's proven it before, and he'll continue to prove it again. Speaking of players that we believe can turn around a program, Shedeur Sanders sliding all the way to the 5th round. We had people messaging us asking if we were going to do an episode about this, hence why we're here. Sreyas couldn't be bothered. He's busy shooting a 120 at Plum Creek Golf Course in Castle Rock. But we've got a lot of thoughts. I think we're going to be in an echo chamber here with our audience, but unbelievably disrespectful. Literally every team in the NFL made the decision to pass on Shedeur Sanders several times. And at some point, the value became so good that the Browns, unfortunately, the Browns of all teams, decided that they just couldn't do it. Our joking name for our episode is Shedeur Sanders dead at 26, killed by the Browns. I don't know if we'll leave that, but as far as places where quarterbacks go to die, that seems like the place. But I got to tell you, I think he could be the one. And how cool would it be? All he has done ever in his entire career is prove people wrong, right? And so everyone always said he was never going to be able to do it in college, that he was just his daddy's son. Everyone said he wouldn't be able to make the conversion from FCS to FBS. And now, a lot of people were hate watching the draft, but even the hater, it's kind of crazy. I don't know if you noticed this on Twitter. Even the haters at some point were like, okay, something's got to be going on, right? And so, like, even if generational haters are like, whoa, like, this is crazy. And at some point, it was just too much value. But I'm not worried about him at all. I was talking to my wife about this, and normally you wouldn't want to draft 2 rookie quarterbacks because confidence is everything when you make that big jump. But definitely not worried about the confidence. And I think he's going to go in there incredibly motivated and turn the Browns organization around. I truly believe that. So really, really excited for him. I'm glad that he took it and was happy about it when he got picked and got to have his moment. I think it's insane that it took as long as it did. But those are my initial thoughts, Jake. I know you've got a lot lined up.
Yeah, there's so many things we have to touch on. I want to touch on the whole party he threw. Unfortunately, he didn't get picked the day he threw the party. I want to touch on why he slid. And I want to touch on where we think Shedeur is going to be in the NFL. How well do we think he'll perform in the NFL? Starting off, let's contextualize this. Shedeur Sanders was projected to be the 2nd overall pick in multiple mock drafts 1 month ago. Shedeur Sanders led the FBS in completion percentage and had one of the highest quarterback ratings in the country. He won the best quarterback award in the FBS last year, and he went 5th off the board, or 6th. Was it 6th or 5th? There were 5 better quarterbacks than him
in a weak quarterback draft. In a weak quarterback class. It's not like everyone else was really good.
Round?
Yeah.
The 5th round. What are we doing? And we'll get into why that is, because I think as CU fans, we really need to take a step back, because we're all in an echo chamber. We're all like, why would you do this? But we need to take a step back and look at this very objectively. Why would NFL coaches and GMs think we do not want to take a risk on Shedeur Sanders? And I think we need to spend some time there. But first off, I want to sing his praises. Everyone on this podcast is a Shedeur Sanders fan. He's got the talent. He's got the arm accuracy. I think his arm strength is solid. It's not the best arm strength. I think NFL teams are getting on him that for words. I think NFL teams are really counting that against him, and I think he has good enough arm strength. But he has top-notch accuracy, top-notch decision-making, aside maybe the sacks, and we'll talk about that here in a second. He's a winner. And when my coworkers making fun of me about Shedeur sliding, they're like, he's not a winner. I don't want him. What was his overall record at CU? Like 13-12 or something like that. And I'm like, no. I think that's one of his best attributes, is he is a winner. Did you see the Baylor game? He made it happen. He went from a team that was 1-11 and turned it around to a college football playoff contender at the end. Like the last week, we thought we could maybe make the playoff. The CU Buffs were 9-4 solely because of Shedeur Sanders. Yes, we had a Heisman winner, but I don't think if Sheduer was on this team, we would have probably won 3 games this year. Do you think that's fair, Chase?
I think you're not far off. I think you're discounting our number 2 overall pick, Travis Hunter, and the talent on the team. But I'll let you have it for this. For purposes of this argument, I'll give it to you.
Yeah. So I'm curious your thoughts too. I think Shedeur Sanders, objectively, taking away my CU fandom, talent-wise, is a first-round pick, a middle to late first-round pick in my eyes in this draft. Last year's draft, maybe not so much because it was pretty loaded at quarterback. Chase, I'm curious your thoughts. I want to start here because then I want to objectively look at why he slid, because he definitely has his flaws.
Well, and I think that's how that's how I'd like to start. Because I think that I think we need to take a step back and say, I think you're 100% right. It's the arm strength. And I think, admittedly, there's a little bit of a circus that comes along with Sheduer that you have to be willing to take on. And he said that, right? Like in his interviews, he was like, don't draft me if you don't want me to come in and change the culture. And I think he's been kind of humbled from this, but I hope not, because that's part of the magic, right? Is he comes in and he knows that he can be a winner and he becomes a winner. But I think it's that. I think it's the fact that every team is looking to recreate Patrick Mahomes, and Sheduer is not that. Like, he's not particularly mobile. At least he wasn't in college. Now, part of that might have been because of how bad our O-line was, but I think those are the concerns, right? You're worried that he's not going to be able to outmaneuver really talented and mobile defensive ends in the NFL, and you're worried about the arm strength, right? You think about the Baylor game. He absolutely heaved it. I think he was standing on the plus side of the 50 when he threw it, and it barely got into the end zone. It was kind of a miracle, right? So, and I think the other thing, right, his average completion was like 8 yards, which was one of the bottom in the NFL, and that's not complete, or in the NCAA, which is not his fault, right? So I get it. Like, there are warning signs there, but there have been warning signs about basically every quarterback, right? Like CJ Stroud had all kinds of warning signs. And you think about like Jalen Milroe has all kinds of warning. Dylan Gabriel got drafted before, all kinds of warning
Tim
signs.
Tebow went in the first round.
They said Lamar Jackson was never going to be an NFL quality quarterback. He fell all the way to 32, right? Patrick Mahomes was a Texas Tech guy. Like everyone, it's very rare to have a quarterback that's a complete rose in the NFL draft. And a lot of those guys that are total roses don't actually pan out in the NFL, right? And so I think, the fact that all of the ESPN crew was losing their minds over this and saying that this was Nick Saban was saying that this is insane, right? Like, you've got some really, it's not just, we're a bunch of armchair guys. We do this because we're fans of CU and we like talking about it as CU fans, right? But so by no means are we quarterback draft evaluators, but let me put it this way. If I had to pick between Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders, which is what the Browns are going to have to do, that is the easiest decision I've ever made in my entire life, right? And you're getting great value because Sheduer is not going to have to worry about paying the bills no matter what. And now you've got him on a super cheap contract for 4 years or whatever it is in the NFL these days for the rookies. So I think that's a huge win. But
Chase, the Browns already made that decision. They picked Dylan Gabriel.
I know. They literally made the decision. Yeah, which is crazy. But when I think about, the Browns don't, I guess maybe the Browns do because they finally made the right choice. But you want to talk about like historically bad and like loser mentality programs lately, like the Cleveland Browns and the Colorado Buffaloes are not that far off, right? And so when I think about like re-energizing a program and bringing someone in that can do it, what's crazy to me is you could have had Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders, and we, whatever, we'll let bygones be bygones, right? But I don't know, like so I understand objectively why he might have slipped. I would have understood if he slipped out of the first round. I was not totally surprised when he fell out of the first round.
Where do you think he should have gone objectively?
Objectively speaking, I mean, I don't think the projection of the Steelers was a bad projection, right? Like somewhere in the mid 20s. Because think about how premium quarterback is as a position, right? Like you take flyers on guys because without quarterback, your team is not serious, right? So like you got to take a flyer on guys. I mean, I'm a Vikings fan in the NFL. Vikings took a flyer on JJ McCarthy just from college film, and we're biased, of course, right? But there's no world in which I'm convinced JJ McCarthy is a more impressive candidate without the family drama and all that kind of stuff going on than Shedeur Sanders at the NFL level. And the Vikings have no idea what they have in JJ McCarthy right now. So it's crazy to me that more teams weren't willing to take a shot at it in the second round, in the third round, in the fourth round, right? Like first round pick, I get it. If you're not a quarterback needy team, maybe you stay away. But he's also, it's not like he's a 21-year-old kid. Like he's an older prospect. Like, I don't know. I think he's someone that can come in and play immediately day one. And I think a lot of teams needed that. So I was surprised that he kept falling. I watched Jackson Dart play. I've watched Jackson Dart make some crazy plays. I've also watched Jackson Dart make some horribly bad plays, right? So it's like none of these guys are just objectively better. But I understand, if you're an NFL GM, you don't want the distraction that might come with Shedeur Sanders. But at some point, these teams had to have looked up and gone, this is a lot of value here. Why are we not thinking about this, right? But Shedeur is also not a guy that you can draft to have be a backup quarterback for a couple of years, right? Like if you're going to draft him, you got to give him an opportunity because the fan base is going to expect you to give him one.
Yeah, maybe. It was getting to the point where I'm a Broncos fan. I wanted the Broncos to pick Sheduer round 3, like get insurance with Bo Nix. I don't think Bo Nix is the greatest quarterback, Even if it got so bad, I'm like, if I'm a Chiefs fan, I would want them to pick Shedeur Sanders.
Oh yeah,
just have him in the waiting.
At some point, if you're a
fifth round pick,
best player available, like it makes so much sense. But again, like I don't think he can be a backup quarterback. I think that's going to be really challenging. It's going to bring in a lot of eyeballs. But really disappointing to see the Raiders pass on him several times. Really disappointing to see the Saints pass on him several times. Really disappointing to see the Browns pass on him several times. But at the end of the day, I think he's in a position where he might have, he's definitely going to have an opportunity, right? The Browns quarterback room is in a total state of disarray. Joe Flacco is literally 40 years old. And that's probably their best option prior to Sheduer coming in, right? Deshaun Watson is certainly not going to be the future there. So,
but if I can interject briefly, going in the 5th round, you're being drafted as a backup. You're not being drafted as a potential starter. And that was kind of a big storyline with him sliding so much. And they have their backup in their eyes, Dylan Gabriel. Sure, they're going to have practices. They're going to see Shedeur Sanders is a lot better than Dylan Gabriel. I truly believe that. But it's going to be an uphill battle just with how much he slid. And I think he has the talent. But that's another storyline I think that needs to be mentioned.
And guys, the talent in the NFL, I really do think like generally rises to the top, right? Like, they didn't bring in Kirk Cousins. And I think Kirk Cousins was the 4th or 3rd round pick. Dak Prescott was a later pick. Obviously, the greatest of all time, Tom Brady, was a later pick. So I think he'll get his opportunity. I'm not super worried about that. Whether he'll be a primary starting quarterback or not in the NFL, this definitely hurts, right? Like when you're first round pick, they're going to give you a couple of years to try it out because they've invested so much capital in you. At this level, I don't know. Maybe he'll become a journeyman and one of those what ifs. But I understand I'm not an NFL scout, but it is crazy to me that you could watch the film from this year. And believe me, it's not because people weren't watching Colorado football games. I would have understood that 3 years ago. People were watching Colorado football games. So it's not like the scouts just were falling asleep for Pac-12 in the dark. Mm-hmm. They knew what was going on and they made a conscious decision. But I do think, there's a lot of conversation on ESPN where once people kind of decide, like once the general consensus amongst scouts was that he wasn't worth taking the drama with and stuff like that, that can kind of perpetuate itself. And I hope he makes people pay. I think if there's anyone out there that has the mental fortitude to make people pay, it's going to be him. And I really hope he does. I hope he absolutely makes people pay.
And he's done that already. He was a lower rated quarterback recruit, did his thing in Jackson State. Wasn't a great program before they got there. CU was the worst program in Power 5, one of the worst in FBS when he got there. Browns, worst program in the NFL. So I'm excited to see what he's going to do, and I'm going to cheer for him. But let's kind of unpack a little bit more why he slid. Why do you and I think he slid as CU fans, coming from the CU fan perspective, but also being objective? Because again, CU fans need to take a step back. There's a reason why he slid to the 5th round. It's because every single NFL GM didn't think he was good enough to be a round 1 through 4 draft pick. Now, let's get into why we think that is. Just some theories that have been floating around the internet. Obviously, arm strength's a big one. Decision-making, taking the sacks. Chase, you mentioned all these, the short throws. The attitude, I think that's kind of the prevailing argument, is that he didn't interview well. And some other arguments, like Stephen A. Smith was like, this is Colin Kaepernick-esque. Like, there's some underlying racism here, or maybe some conspiracy.
I liked your tweet about release the tapes, right? Like, it's one of those things where it's like, and it was kind of fun to see on Twitter, like people trying to guess, right? Like, what could he possibly have done in an interview to warrant falling from the 1st round, like number 2 overall projection, all the way down to the 5th round? Yeah. Like, he must have been, pledging allegiance to Al Qaeda, or I can't even imagine what you can quote that. You can make that on Twitter.
Okay, the memes were hilarious. I'll give that. Like, Shedeur Sanders going in his interview, and they were just wild memes on the internet. Yeah. But before we get into it, the list of the quarterbacks that were selected above Sheduer: Cam Ward, he was selected 1st overall. Jackson Dart, selected 25th. Tyler Show, selected 40th. That pick's a joke, in my opinion. Jalen Milroe, selected 92nd overall, all before Sheduer.
If Tyler Show could have, like, if Tyler Show was like, I will transfer to Colorado if Chase says it's okay, I would have been like, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And he's now going to be a starting quarterback in the NFL for approximately 4 games before they realize, like, oh my God, what have we done?
He had one good season.
And if he ends up being great, then we will literally just turn off the podcast. That'll be the end. Or at least I'll depart, because, like, it's just in the same way that I bet that CSU wasn't going to win and I bet my foot. I'll bet my foot again. I mean, he is not whatever. Yeah, I'm not. I think we're sour grapes at this point.
Yeah.
But yeah. To your point.
To objectively talk about Sheduer, we were watching when Jackson Dart got selected. We were watching the highlights come up on the film, and my wife goes, "See, he didn't get sacked there." I thought it was so funny. But objectively, I think here's a couple of the biggest reasons why NFL teams didn't go for Sheduer. Again, I think it's a mistake. Big Shedeur Sanders fan, but let's take a step back. He takes way too many sacks. I thought 25% of our sacks were on Sheduer. Granted, he did roll out of a lot of sacks. He prevented a lot of sacks, but I don't think that's going to work in the NFL. He does that same back shoulder on the right side spin move, and teams started to catch on to that in college football later in the season. He couldn't do that anymore. The NFL, they're going to be on that like glue. So I don't think he's going to be able to roll out of sacks and kind of have that ability to extend plays as much. So I think that's his biggest problem is he takes too long to throw the football. Another issue with Sheduer is his arm strength. It's not top tier, but I don't think you need it. Look at Peyton Manning. Look at Tom Brady. I don't think Tom Brady had the best arm strength. Peyton Manning definitely didn't. Peyton Manning did not throw a tight spiral. I don't think Sheduer has a big spiral issue, but I really think NFL teams undervalue decision-making and accuracy. I really think they do. Look at the best quarterbacks of all time. You have some anomalies like Patrick Mahomes is surely athletic. Josh Allen has an arm. I can go on and on, but I think those are a couple of his biggest issues. Another thing that I don't think enough people are talking about is Sheduer took no snaps under center. A couple. The NFL, they're taking a lot of snaps under center. So I wonder if they asked him that, and I wonder what his response was. I wonder if they're asking the CU coaching staff, hey, why is he taking him from shotgun? Oh, we need time because the offensive line's horrendous. Is probably what they said. But he needs that experience taking it under center and doing a quick slant route, quick underneath, quick throw to the flat. He needs that experience in the NFL because you need to get rid of the ball quick in the NFL. So I think those are his biggest issues. The attitude stuff, I can see, right? Like he had that, you mentioned this interview, the combine, where he said, like, if teams don't want to change the culture, pick me. Like that wasn't the best thing to say. Sheduer has said a lot of things that it hasn't been the best thing to say. I don't think Shedeur Sanders is a bad person.
If Jackson Dart had said that exact same quote verbatim, he would still have been drafted exactly where he was. You will never convince me otherwise. I just don't believe it. Like I think it's asinine to be like.
But it's more than that. I mean, that's not a sole interview. There was the time where he blamed his offensive line when he was playing NCAA with Travis Hunter, and he kind of did. I don't think he meant it like. I don't think he meant it personally. The offensive line was really bad that first year, and it was just a joke. It's funny. Like, get over it, people. But so I think there is a little bit of cockiness, but again, I think Sheduer is a good guy. Look at how he treats all of his players. Look at all the stuff on Well Off. Literally, right when he got drafted, he's like, the only thing I want now is my wide receivers to get drafted. Look at when he was slipping down the draft. He's like, I'm trusting God. That's all he's tweeting out. And on some of the videos, he's like, look, all we can do is trust God. Like, he's got a plan for me. Like, that's a locker room cancer, really? And you're going to go after Johnny Manziel, Baker Mayfield over Shedeur Sanders?
And you have crazy. Deshaun Watson in your quarterback room already. You have Deshaun Watson, and you're like, no, we're drawing the line at Shedeur Sanders. Like, give me a break.
So I'm curious your thoughts, Chase. Like, why do you think he slid? I think it was mainly talent and attitude. And one more thing really quick. Coach, I think teams are afraid of Coach Prime. 100%. They don't want him to come in and say you got to do this way. But you're an NFL team, just say no, chill 100%. Out.
But I don't think that's a small component of it, right? Like I really do think if his last name was not Sanders, he's at the latest a second round pick. And I think about
100%. Yeah.
In better quarterback year. I know I kind of talked about this earlier, but Kenny Pickett went number 20 overall. He's got literally the hands of a 8-year-old child, and he's getting selected in the first round, right? This is what I'm talking about. Where teams
can I interject one more time? Sorry. Yeah. I think that's very true. I was harping on a lot of his physicals and decision making, but I think that's the biggest reason is he's a Sanders, and people have hated him for the last 4 years. Right. Sorry, go ahead.
And I also understand, you're probably worried if you're a general manager and a coach about, am I going to get a lot of pressure from the fan base to start him, before stuff like that, right? You're probably worried about the interference. I really do think that's a big component of it, right? And Coach Prime is not afraid of the spotlight, but I do think some teams are afraid of the distractions and the headaches. And I think that's legitimate, right? Like Shedeur Sanders is not the right fit for every team. But if you're a team like the New Orleans Saints, where your starting quarterback might legitimately be Jake from the Folsom Frenzy podcast next year. I mean, it's really truly that dire.
I got an arm,
right?
Man. It's not that dire.
Exactly. I mean, it's just crazy to me that teams will really take a risk at quarterback. And by the time the third round came around, I was like, there's no way. There's just no way that a team's not going to say, let's just take a shot in the dark, right? And to your point, all these teams that passed, Minnesota Vikings think they have their future in JJ McCarthy, right? But you're telling me in the fourth round you didn't go, what if we don't? Like, why not just roll the dice and see what happens, right? Like, we can reinforce far and away the most important position in football with someone who legitimately could be a first-round talent, and we can have them under contract for 4 years for nothing, for a fourth-round pick that we would trade for a washed-up wide receiver, right? Like, I just think it's
Bo Nix. I think Shedeur Sanders is better than Bo Nix. Same.
Yeah, and I hope you're right, because I'm not a Broncos fan. I hope you're 100% right, because it's incredibly frustrating. But we talked about this earlier. If there's anyone that can go out and prove them wrong, I really do think it's Shedeur Sanders. If there's anyone out there that can fall like this, if I'm just making it up, right? But if Cam Ward had fallen to the fifth round, and he's a winner, by the way. Like, talking about people that are winners, like Cam Ward, no question, he's a winner, right? To my knowledge, this is not an anti-Cam Ward podcast. But if he'd fallen to the fifth round, like, you have to really worry about the effect that can have on a player. I'm not super worried about that with Sheduer. Like, Sheduer's going to say, this is God's plan, and I'm a winner, and I know I'm a winner, and not even being in Cleveland, Ohio is going to ruin that for me. So I don't know if we want to just beat this to death, but I know we're also preaching to the choir, and I'm glad that CSU and Nebraska fans had something to be excited about during the NFL draft, because it certainly wasn't their players being selected ahead of the University of Colorado. So, including Horton, by the way, but maybe we'll save that for next season, or next time we play Colorado State 15 years from now. But
was Horton picked before Sheduer?
He was not.
Okay.
And a lot of people on Twitter were very loud about how they thought he was going to be. So just wanted to give them a little exclusive shout out there. But it was closer than it should have been.
Dude, I don't know if you saw the Shiloh memes of Shiloh Sanders getting picked before Sheduer.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And
I had a good laugh. You gotta take a good laugh on these things.
I'm happy for Shiloh. I cannot believe an NFL team signed him, but and I don't know, maybe we want to talk about the other guys that got signed, but really, really excited for all especially the wide receivers that all got drafted. And like Silman Craig, right? Like, that guy's a winner. Like, I really do think that that's a diamond in the rough for I can't remember where he went. Jacksonville. Yeah.
Jags got like 3 buffs. Good for them.
But I really do think like those guys are really going to be quite talented. I think Jimmy Horn's going to make the roster. I really do. Probably, more on special teams, but those guys are really talented. I'm really excited to see them get an opportunity. And then you look back at our wide receiver room now and you go, wow, this is still an incredibly talented wide receiver room. And we'll probably do a separate episode where we talk about the transfers out and transfers in once that all settles down. But, that's more on the college side. It's our special NFL episode, but
yeah. I also love the Jonte at the Ravens. I feel like that's a perfect fit. I feel like the Ravens have always had really good slot receivers, and that's the Jonte. I feel like he fits that mold perfectly well to go to the best quarterback in the NFL. One of the best, I should say, with Lamar Jackson. I think that's a great fit. So I'm excited for him as well.
Absolutely. Under the radar, great hands, gets open. I think that'll be a really nice fit for, because you don't have to be the star of the show in Baltimore, right? Like, Lamar Jackson can make plays happen. You just have to catch the ball when it hits your hands and find a way to get open. So I really do think like it's exciting to finally see Colorado. I mean, there were several years, and for the newer Coach Prime fans, there were several years where Colorado had 0 players get picked in the NFL draft, right? Our best NFL prospect to come out was Laviska Shenault, who unfortunately got ruined as a wide receiver with the Jaguars. But, like Phil Lindsay being an undrafted free agent and making the Pro Bowl was like the highlight of the NFL talent out of Colorado, right? So I really
wait. Hold on.
For a long time, right?
Like, for a long time. Yeah.
It was like 5 or 6 years ago now, right? Witherspoon,
Jimmy
was like
Smith, that's a little bit farther back.
Yeah, I'm talking about like in the last 5.
Honestly, it was
5
Jimmy
years,
Smith
right?
before Phil. Yeah.
And so, there's been a drought of NFL talent out of the school. And so it's really exciting. If Colorado basketball is producing more professional talent than Colorado football, like, things are topsy-turvy. And so I really hope we continue to, and I don't even want to say I really hope, I know that we are going to continue to do that with our new long-term contract with Coach Prime. And Really excited to continue to see us develop NFL guys. Really unfortunate that Sheduer had to, pay the price of having a successful dad and being, popular on TV. But, I don't think that's going to stop us producing talent. I don't think prospects are going to look at that and go, oh, I'm worried I'm going to fall. I'm not going to sign with the Buffs. So really excited about the future. Really excited that we got our guys and can't wait to watch Travis ball out. I wish it was a team that I cheered for. I'd buy the jersey already, but unfortunately the teal blue or whatever the hell the Jacksonville Jaguars wear is just not going to make it into my closet, no matter how much I love Travis Hunter.
Yep. Real quick, I know we got the Avs on. We got one other big topic we have to cover while we're here recording, because we had a lot of big transfers out that we really need to talk about. Both the Hood brothers, Brandon Hood and Colton Hood, transferred out, which is a huge, huge loss for Colton Hood. He was one of our best DBs, and he had 3 years left to play. And then we also lost Wester on the defense at middle linebacker. But Jonte Wester's brother, I'm blanking. But I thought he was also a really solid player, really solid piece. And then the running back, wasn't there another running back that transferred out? I'm blanking.
I don't keep up with that as much as you do, but the Hood transfer is the one that really, really hurts, right? That was supposed to be our 100% locked corner. As far as like players that you could mark and pin on the roster for next season, that would have been one of the players that I would have been more confident about.
Really quick, Tajay McCoy is another one we didn't talk about. I know it was like about a week ago, but he's a huge loss. He was one of our best defensive ends. Really quick, Isaiah Augustave, running back, Brandon Hood, Adrian Wilson, wide receiver, Sam Hart, tight end, Cash Cleveland. That's another one. I'm like, come on. All-American freshman. And that one hurts. And he went in conference to Texas Tech. Zachariah Owens, O-lineman, Aiden DeCorte. I don't even know who that is. Oh, long snapper. Okay. Jay Gardenhire. That one was also a little bit of a hit. Chidoze Nwankwo. Which
that one hurts.
Yeah.
I think Augustave is probably going to hurt more than we realize. Although I've always been high on him, and he hasn't really repaid the favor on that. So, but no question, losing one of your best corners when Coach Prime is your coach, who maybe we're crazy, but I really did think he was a lock to start. All basically the whole season at corner. So,
Colton
really,
Hood, totally.
Really disappointing to see that, but. We've had this. We've basically recorded the same episode like every year for 3 years now. Basically, at this point, where we have these guys transfer out, we're like, oh my god, the sky is falling, and we have to remind ourselves just to rely and trust in Coach Prime, and he ends up bringing in better talent. So I'm confident we're going to find our guys. I'm confident that this team's going to be. I'm starting to drink the Kool-Aid. I'm starting to think that. I don't know. Maybe this is a 10-win team next year, even though I think in our last episode I said this was going to be a rebuilding season. But I'm gonna trust the recruiting and the transfer portal with Coach Prime until I'm proven otherwise. But I really do think things are going to work out.
I have a slightly different take, and I want to start with I trust Coach Prime, and that's such a beautiful spot to be in, that you trust your head coach so much, and you have the best head coach in college football. But
oh boy,
I'm going to say this, and a lot of people are going to get triggered. I think we need to do more high school recruiting. And I know CU fans are like, why? Like, the transfer portals work great for us. The problem with the portal is you're getting guys who have no allegiance to CU. And if you get them as a freshman, they're going to come as a freshman, live in the dorms, and they're not going to transfer out a year after, hopefully. I mean, Cash Cleveland did. A lot of people do. But I think it's more of a chance that you keep them ingrained in the culture. They're living college life as a freshman. It's such a pivotal year. And you get that more with these high school recruits. Whereas with some transfer guys, you get a Nakai Hill-Green, and he's using CU as a stepping stone to go back to Alabama once he proves himself. Not back to – did he start at Bama? He started at some SEC school. But, yeah. So I think you need to go after high school guys. I think that's also where you get the best talent ultimately, right? Who's our best talent on our team right now? Jordan Seaton, probably, high school guy. So I really think you need to ramp up the high school recruiting. I've also been a little bit disappointed at our recruiting so far this year in terms of high school and transfer portal. I think we only have just a couple guys from the spring portal. Some very big needs. I mean, Sincere Brown is a great wide receiver. That's a great pickup. Xavier Hill, he'll be a starting tackle, maybe guard. There's a little bit of a debate there. So you got some good pieces, but I'm just kind of surprised. I don't know. I thought there'd be more pieces. Like there was a running back from Cal that visited, didn't commit, went over to UCLA, committed to UCLA on the spot. So it's like things like that. I don't know. I see a little bit of a gap in recruiting, and I know how crazy that sounds coming from CU and how much our recruiting has ramped up over the last 2 years. But now that we have some momentum, I would like to see more momentum in the recruiting front. Again, trust Coach Prime, but I just had to say that. I was thinking about that the other day.
Really wise of you to wait until minute 33 of the episode where
yeah,
only 7 people, 7 people are still watching. But I mean, everyone's a mercenary in college football. I don't think it matters if they come in as a freshman. I think people are going to move and keep transferring until the NCAA finally puts in some rules that actually make sense. So I'm not as worried about that. I think I really, every year we record this episode where we're like, wow, we've lost some really great guys and we haven't refilled the spots. And every year we end up finding the guys, and I'm okay with waiting and getting our guys. I think Colorado knows what it's looking for now, even more than 2 years ago. I think our coaches know exactly the kind of guys they want, and if they have to be picky about it. And I also understand that in the NIL world, there's different competitive components in play, right? So it's not just enough to say I can get you the NFL. You have to write a check as well. So, I'm going to choose this time to be optimistic. We've been rewarded the last 2 years. They find a way and they come through with the talent. So I think we can be patient. There's a lot of time left. With all the spring games wrapping up, we're going to see more people. Penn State had theirs today, right? So people are going to continue hitting the transfer portal. And I'm going to wait until August until I start worrying about it. Yeah, it sucks to lose people like Cash Cleveland. That's the epitome of someone who should have earned a scholarship and been at Colorado all 4 years and absolutely loved the school, got Ralphie tattooed on his left pec and never forgot about it, right? But college football is just not the same anymore, right? And part of that's the magic being lost. But I don't think we can cry over sour grapes, and we just wait and trust. And if we're proven wrong, like you said, then we're proven wrong. But until that happens, I'm excited for this coming season. So cool. How's that for optimism? Maybe we end it there on our special episode. I don't know if you have anything else, but thank you everyone for watching. As always, to the 8 people that heard Jake's atrocious take here at the end, follow us on X, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Hopefully, the other people that are occasionally on our podcast will decide to show up for another episode when they're not shooting a 175 at Plum Creek or in Breckenridge, listening to the nature in Colorado. So until then, thank you everyone for listening, and we'll be back with another episode here soon.
Let's go Buffs, 4 draftees.
Go Buffs.